Blog Talk Radio.
Archangels, ghosts, and Bigfoot, oh my. It's just another night for Supernatural Girls. Real stories, real answers to life's biggest supernatural mysteries. And now for another exciting interview with paranormal experts from this world and others. Here's your host, paranormal researcher Patricia Baker, on the one, the only Supernatural Girls.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Supernatural Girls Radio. I'm your host, Patricia Baker, and happy Halloween, everybody. This is our special Halloween show. We have a terrific guest tonight, but unfortunately, our co-host, PK, she really did a number on her back, and she is not able to join us. She just got out of the hospital, so we're sending her healing energy. Hope she feels better. And she said to please give everybody a big hug from her. And she'll be back with us next week, and along with Lon Duquette, famous occultist. He will be joining us. But tonight, oh my goodness, there's so much going on in the world today. We've got to start with the paranormal news. And on our Facebook page, we have several really cool stories. One that's very strange, I have to say. The Satanic Temple is suing Netflix over statue in the new Sabrina series, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. If you haven't seen it on Netflix, I highly recommend it. It's a great, great series, very well written, terrific actors. It's worth watching. And they do have this huge statue right in the middle of this entryway to the school for witches. But anyways, apparently, the Satanic Temple had a fit over it. They say it's copyright infringement, and they're going after Netflix. What a shame, because it's a great show, and I hope they'll be renewed for another season. But here we go, all this litigious stuff. Unbelievable. But anyways, check out the show. It is really, really cool, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. And we also have a video there on our Facebook page, and it has a video of UFOs over The Hague. Now, I don't know. I took a look at it. Some of it looks a little odd. I'm not sure if it's for real or not. I'd love for you all to take a look and tell me what you think. Is it real, or is it photoshopped, or what is it? It is one big UFO with a lot of strange things circling it. So go to our Facebook page, take a look there. And also, we have a new, it's called Divine Aligns, ALIGNS. Make sure you visit and give us a like, follow us there. We're going to be having all kinds of services available for soul realignment. It's the work of Andrea Hess, very powerful. It is transformation on steroids. So take a look there and go ahead and message us. We'd be happy to talk to you about it. And if you want to get training in it yourself, you can go right to our website, supernaturalgirls.com. We have a link there, and if you wanted to study with Andrea yourself, you can do it. So just go to that link. Excuse me. It's going to bring you all the information that you need. And if you'd like a session, then you know where to find it. You can get it right here on Supernatural Girls. Just go ahead and send me an email or message me on Facebook. I'll be happy to reply, give you all the info you need, and set up a session for you. Very much recommend this work. As you know, I was a therapist for 20 years and a dream analyst, and I've never seen anything like this work. Very powerful, very quick acting, and it gives real results. So tonight, it's Halloween, everybody. Oh, my goodness. And we've got such a terrific guest, J. Adam Smith, all the way from Knoxville. He's a ghost hunter, but he's also an historian. And he's been investigating the paranormal for nearly 2 decades. He's internationally acclaimed, and he's also very sensitive and intuitive himself. He's a master teacher for the Paranormal Field. He has been featured in Ghostly Places in Tennessee, that's a book, He's been seen on the Travel Channel's Paranormal Paparazzi. He's been on NBC, ABC, and, countless other magazines and journals related to the paranormal. So we're going to find out, is Knoxville the most haunted city in America? We're going to know from the horse's mouth right here. J. Adam, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for those who are listening in.
How did you come to end up in Knoxville, of all places? Because I know you didn't start there. What happened?
Well, you're absolutely correct. Knoxville, I came through because my sister lives up here, and I was traveling across the country, and it's one of those things, and I do warn everyone who's listening, if you do go to Knoxville and you spend more than a couple weeks here, you will fall in love with it, and you will not want to live anywhere else. And
no kidding.
So I stayed up here. Yep, I stayed up here with my sister, and I did everything I could when I was living in sunny Florida to get myself back up, to get up here and actually live here. And when I moved to the city, I found myself just blown away with the history, just looking around all the historic buildings and just the amount of history. And I'm just like, wow, I need to look into this. And the more I looked into the city, the more I was fascinated, because it wasn't the pretty underbelly, it's the dark and shadowy undercolor for the city.
Ooh.
The history was just absolutely amazing. And, of course, what I started doing is my entrepreneurial spirit. I was like, wonderful history, and I got experience with paranormal investigation. I wonder if I could create something really unique here. So I spent hundreds of hours researching the histories, finding what we call ground zeros, locations that something tragic happened, and going to those locations just out of the blue. And this is really pretty much my name, the paranormal historian, from, is I found myself leading by the history and finding these X marks the spot where something crazy happened in the past, and then investigating it and finding out, no figure, we're getting weird things happening. I'm like, no way. And then, of course, over the years and years of investigating, we're like, this city is seriously active. And then looking at the history, I'm like, no wonder. I mean, not only do we have all the time periods pretty much covered. So just to give you guys a kind of rundown, understand that this was Native American land. We moved here in Native American land basically saying we want to expand our territory. Then they were dealing with the territorial Indians that were attacking them. And, of course, what did they do? Oh, us white settlers, we decided to see if we could figure out a way to kind of buy time. So they're like, okay, we'll trade you this. If you let us stay here for a year, we'll come off the land, but we'll give you some furs and whatever kind of stuff that they decided to do. Then the year was up, and then the Indians were like, you're supposed to get off the land. And they're like, well, we'll make another deal with you. So they make another treaty with them.
Oh, boy. So those sneaks, that's how they did it.
They were so good at their manipulation. And then finally, when the third treaty came through, we had so many people populating the city that at that point we fortified it and made sure that, and then, of course, the Trail of Tears came through here. And that's only the starting level of all the notorious and secret underbelly in this city. They had a Revolutionary War fort right off the river. And it's funny, they had cannons and all this, and all the history books say, oh, the cannons were for wild animals. Yeah, they're considering wild animals the Indians is what basically they're saying.
Yeah,
because all
exactly.
they had to do was do one of these big booms with the cannons, and the Indians would stay away from the city so they could buy more time with basically threatening them with these loud sounds that they're not familiar with. Then we had mobsters, gunslingers, secrets under the city, Civil War divided loyalties, you name it. We had organizations such as the KKK and all these white supremacy kind of things. It was very big involved with Knoxville, so the KKK was big. You name it, every time period pretty much is covered here in the city. So it's like, could this be one of the most haunted cities in America?
A lot of treachery. Yeah, you can see where it was so concentrated, and with betrayal and treachery and all of these things that leave a mark on the land.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's there for sure. And so you were able to go through the documents basically that were already there and bring them more to light, and then connect the dots with the ghostly disturbances that you were finding. Good for you. So you put it all together for everybody.
That is correct. I did. I put it together for everyone. On top of that, I dealt with the challenges of the Bible Belt. when you can only guess the first year of taking people around downtown with a bunch of tools that light up, I got a lot of flack about it. What are you doing? Are you serious?
You did.
Ghosts don't exist, all this. Oh, it was tough. And then on the same aspect of running a tour, I had to figure out, how do I do it better? I wanted to create one of the best tours in the country, and one of the things that allowed me to do that is, one, to be accepting of criticism. How can I do this better? How can I tweak it? How can I make it better? And now on pretty much all the reviewing platforms, we're between a 4.6 and a 4.7 area on average on all the platforms. It's because we've created something that doesn't need improvement at this point. We pretty much have owned it. I've learned how to be a tour guide. I wasn't a tour guide before I led my tours here. I had to learn how to be a tour guide. And I'll tell you, I tried to train someone to do what I do. Just one of my walking tours, I got to a point I was like between 8 and 10 pages of information to be able to, to lead a tour like me. Everything from psychological to reading the customer to recognizing how to interact with them, and you name it. It's amazing.
Well, it takes a special talent, I think, when you're walking between two worlds and you're trying to introduce people to all the phenomenon and give them the background, give them the story. And it sounds like you have it. You've mastered it. But it's not an easy thing for most people. So you found that out.
The funniest thing that I do is really, it's so bad. I'll have everyone in front of me, so we don't overcrowd the tours, but a lot of times we'll have a maxed out tour. And I get in front of everyone. I says, by the way, you're going to notice that I'm highly animated. Please understand, it's because I truly love what I do, and I'm not trying to turn a skeptic into a believer. I'm going to allow you the opportunity to choose for yourself. And this is part of what I'm doing here. Is I'm breaking down. I'm like a mediator between those who don't believe and those who do believe, and saying, look, let's all come together. Skepticism is healthy. Skepticism is needed. Use these tools, substantiate evidence. Yes, we're actually substantiating evidence on our investigation tours. I'm teaching people how to think outside the box and say, look, a tool went off. Well, is that enough to confirm it? No, we need more. We need more evidence to confirm that there's something going on here.
Oh, they do. Absolutely. I think it helps to bridge that gap. Now, tell me a little bit about some of the haunted places that you bring people to and the story behind it, because I know my listeners love to hear the details. What are these places in Knoxville that are so heavily haunted, and what kinds of things have your tour people found when they've gone with you, or what have you found even by yourself when you go to scout out a place? Anything that's really scared you?
Well, what's absolutely fascinating, and you could tell a story left and right, and I'll be happy to share some of the experiences that we've had. But this is what's fascinating. The last 6 months to a year, I've been allowing people to actually pull out their personal cell phones and videotape video on their phones, the evidence that we're getting. And if you go to those who are listening in, make sure that you, while you're thinking of it, go to my Haunted Knoxville Ghost Tours Facebook page and check out the videos, because these people are never investigated before. I'm training them how to use the tools and stuff, and they're actually substantiating evidence right there on camera. And some of the crazy things, for example, one of the locations that I got was the historic Southern Railway Station. And the historic Southern Railway Station is this beautiful train station that is right in the downtown heart of Knoxville. And what's interesting is that train station had connections to one of the most disastrous and horrific train accidents in American history. And it was called the Newmarket train wreck. And basically what ended up happening is these two trains ended up colliding head first because the switch was missed. So for those who are listening in, when you have a single track, they have a switch, so that way two different direction trains can actually pull off the track so the other one can pass. And what happened was that day someone missed the switch.
Oh boy.
So these two trains collided at about 75 miles per hour. And from
that
all
must
the
have
records
been
that we have,
horrific. How many people were killed in that?
15 miles away. Well, that's what's fascinating. Is a lot of times what I find myself doing, especially in Knoxville, is finding out that a lot of these stories seem to have cover-ups and the numbers are false and not quite so right and all that. For example, with the trains, what I found out through the research is that the train company obviously would suffer if it was a really bad accident. So if they can kind of
definitely
soften the blow, so from everything that we got, we actually recognized that there was a person who did the 100-year anniversary, and he wrote a book, and it's interesting because it's hard to find this book. And he went through and actually went to try to find, all the people who were on the train and, match them up to burial spots and try to get numbers, and found that the numbers were quite askewed. And basically what he's saying is because the train accident happened on a Saturday morning, that would have been worse than during the week, because the trains were a huge way for transportation for businessmen to get downtown, because in early 1900, not everyone could drive one of these automobiles. So it was very, very popular for transportation. But even on weekends, it would have been overly populated because now you got your family and the kids on the laps.
Oh, boy.
So when these two trains collided, go ahead.
Yeah, that must have taken out just hundreds of people. Did he ever get a real number or something close to it?
I think, if I got this correctly, there was, I think, over 200 casualties and well over 100 deaths. And what's fascinating is the numbers that are skewed. I believe the official record is somewhere around the 50 people died. And actually, the numbers are, I think, closer to 100, if not more. And if those numbers were actually not covered up, and that we're using the official records of this historian that did the research, this would have been the most disastrous train wreck in American history. But the numbers don't match. So they can only, when they're doing all these numbers and have these websites that kind of, show all the worst train wrecks, this one isn't the highest one because the numbers are wrong on it.
Yeah, they're wrong.
And basically,
they were hiding. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
So even back then, they were covering things up just to make money. Now, I would think with a wreck as horrific as that could have created a tear in time and space, not just the souls that had that shock of suddenly being involved in something like that. But when you went to investigate that area, you must have found a tremendous amount of activity on a lot of levels.
Problem is we cannot investigate the actual place of the wreck. The reason is because train tracks are federally owned, and of course all the property is privately owned. So being able to actually investigate the location is hard. How the train station in Knoxville connects to it is that we were the helpers to it. So when this happened, and basically these two trains hit head first and catapulted in the air and landed straight on the passenger cars, basically they were trying to do the triage as fast as they could. So they're creating triage on the spot, and they're putting on the train people who they felt had the higher chance of surviving. Problem was, is by the time they got to Knoxville, everyone was dead. So Knoxville's train station turned into a makeshift morgue.
I see. So that's how it became a haunted area, because the people passed somewhere in between the actual site of the accident and this train station. Wow, that is just a horrible story. And so what did you find? What kinds of proof and evidence did you uncover from the other side?
Well, what's fascinating is, of course, we use a whole bunch of different tools, and, of course, being a master teacher in the field and teaching people how to be able to get, evidence quickly. And that's really what it's all about. I have to keep people who are ADDs, their minds that are really rapid, got to keep them entertained. So one thing I'm never going to be able to do in this field is be able to get someone to sit in a dark room for an hour talking at a wall. It's going to bore them to death, and it's not going to be entertaining.
So boring. You're so right. You're so right. It is boring. I've done it.
Yes. So
it's
what
boring
I've done
until somebody starts responding.
I've actually been known in the industry of being one of the individuals that can get very quick evidence, and a lot of it in a short amount of time. a lot faster than most paranormal investigators. So I was like, while everyone's there for 5 hours, I can go in 2 hours, get more evidence than they have, and say, bye, have a nice evening, and leave. I don't have to be there till 3 a.m. And on top of that, we approach it with a very respectful, safe manner. And it's important for everyone to understand who are listening in that do paranormal investigations. There are different ways to investigate, and the best way to get the most amount of evidence is out of respect. So if you're watching the Ghost Adventures show, you're going to recognize that a lot of times they use a lot of negative reinforcement to try to get the spirits to act and misbehave. The way I like to compare it to is a little kitty cat. You got a cat there in front of you. We all know that cats take time to warm up to. So you have two different behaviors that you can get out of that cat. If I'm aggressive to that cat, I'm going to get the nails, I'm going to get the hissing at me, and get a very angry cat that will never, ever want to interact with me. If I do get a reaction from the cat, it's normally going to be negative because that's the only way I can get a reaction out of it. The other way is to understand the cat, be patient with the cat, get the cat to understand me and warm up to me, and then now I've created a friend for life. So the question I have to the listeners and also to you hosting here, would you say that the pure essence of the cat would be the hissing part or the part that's occurring and getting used to you?
Yeah, well, that's a very good point. I mean, we've always said on the show that these people that go and provoke the area, provoke the ghosts, are going about it in kind of a stupid way because it's all about communication. I mean, do you really want to know something of import from people that have passed or entities from other dimensions? Then set up a relationship. You know, be open-hearted, ask the questions that you want answered, and you'll get answers. But, yeah, I think provoking spirits is not a good idea overall.
It's not only not a good idea, but if you're trying to understand what that spirit is, what happened to them, what's their life, what's going on, you're not going to get it by provoking them at all. I'm not there. So these haunted places that people are getting these evidence at, they're getting scratches and getting the angry spirits.
Right.
That's not really the spirits. I'm sure the spirits are fine, are decent people. And if you were to understand their history, and that's why the history is important with paranormal investigation, being a paranormal historian, understand the more you know, the better you do. And of course, with this history, the spirits are going to see, wow, they care about me, they understand me, they want to know about my life. Like, you know, you can sympathize with them with that. And then what will happen is you'll start getting some amazing responses from the spirits. And I think that's one of the reasons why the train station event, we get so much activity. So you asked me what kind of activity we're getting. Mm-hmm. One of the most amazing EVPs we've ever captured was using a spirit box. So by the way, those who are not familiar with a spirit box, it's an SP7. And basically what it is a radio frequency scanner that has been modified to sweep stations and leave a lot of white noise. So occasionally you will get the radio, but really the way you use that device is you are always asking questions. You're always trying to talk to the spirits to hear a response, which is good because you're opening up that communication, a dialogue, all right? So you go through these questions and you be very thankful. Make sure that when you're investigating, use please and thank you. Why? Because if you're dealing with old spirits, if you don't use please and thank you, you're actually disrespecting them. Yeah, if they're older than you, those spirits, if you don't say please and thank you, they're going to like, who is this jackass talking to me? All right? And that's why this problem.
You're right.
So one night I had a 10-year-old. Hilarious. This girl was a pain in the butt, I could tell. And she was using one of my trigger devices, and she was like, turn it on now. And I was looking at her, and, of course, my jaw was almost to the ground at that point. I'm like, I do not claim this girl. She was not mine. But I couldn't help but being a scientist. I observed her, and I was like, okay, I'm going to see whether that behavior is going to get any evidence. The answer was, no, it didn't. I sat next to her, and I said, young lady, I said, I want to let you know, I feel as though you're going to get more evidence if you are respectful. And as soon as I corrected her, the device went off for the first time.
Ah, see?
Her next
That's
response
terrific.
was, please?
Look at that. You taught her some manners. It sounds like somebody didn't. So.
Well, the problem is today's society. Today's society, we don't use please and thank you very much.
No,
we really don't.
No.
But the problem
right.
is that we also don't take insult when someone doesn't say please and thank you to us. See, back in the day, people would take insults if you didn't say please and thank you. But today, because it's so people are calling each other curse names jokingly. Things have changed a lot, but the problem is it has not changed with these spirits. It hasn't changed at all. So you have to understand, and this is where parapsychology comes from, is to understand that we're dealing with people on the other side. Now, if you piss off a spirit and you're trying to investigate and you guys are being disrespectful unknowingly by not, understanding the history of the spirits and not saying please and thank you, is it possible that spirit could come through and start pulling your leg? Absolutely. So here's the thing. You're investigating this place and you're using one of the devices and stuff and you're getting real scared and you hear the word demon come through it. Can you really take that for real? Or could a spirit be pulling your leg? The answer is
that's a very hard thing for especially an amateur to know the answer to. So, I think you're bringing up a really important point, J. Adam. I mean, it is important to know something about who you are trying to talk to. And that time did have a whole different level of gentility and manners and respect that we definitely don't have today. So, yes, that's a really good point. I'm so glad you brought that up. I think it's I think it's great that you taught that little girl a lesson about that. I'm sure she'll remember it forever. So, it's really important. And, of course, you got your confirmation when the lights went off, right after you had that conversation with her. Perfect.
That is correct. So, going back to the train, I get a little off topic, but I have fun, and my most important thing that I'm doing is I'm going to help people be successful and safe on the investigations, and that's the most important thing. I have never had a problem on my investigations that someone has been attacked or whether they brought anything home with them, because there's really no chance. Yeah. I'm very nice and very polite when investigating. Well, anyhow, on one of the train cars, and this doesn't really relate to the Newmarket train wreck, but it does relate to that these train cars can be haunted. One of my investigators said out loud, "How long have you been here?" And, of course, the device going,
yeah.
Literally, it sounds like this. 26 years right after.
That clear. Oh, my. That's a good one.
That clear. And for those who are listening in, you can hear that directly on our Facebook page, Haunted Knoxville Ghost Tours. So when you go there, you can see, I believe it's got a description, 26 years on it. So you can hear really how amazing it is. Now, what's really great about the Spirit Box is when you're investigating with this device, you do not have to worry about contamination in the room. So I want to talk to the spirits. Well, if I'm using a digital voice recorder, there is a chance that I might be getting the sounds from someone that's in the room with me. All right? So there could be contamination.
Right.
The Spirit Box is a great device to use that's not going to be contaminated with. And there's no possible way that the Spirit Box could hear my question, let alone answer, because it's just a radio. It's not a walkie-talkie. All right? So that's one of them. But last October, crazy. We're investigating the train. We went into the sleeper cars. Now, of course, spirits still think that they are walking around just like us. They still think they have a physical body. So, of course, spirits probably think they need to sleep too, don't they? Well,
right.
The sleeper cars that's set up with beds and everything still, because this is an antique train setup here, so people can go in and see, the cars all dressed up like they were originally. So anyhow, I take a group into one of these sleeper cars and I say out loud, "I hope we're not disrupting you. We're not disrupting you. I hope tonight." And with everyone in this one room of the car, the light turned on above us. The next thing I did was I looked around in my room. I looked, all right, did anyone touch a switch? And they're like, all, their faces are all like, nope. And their hands are up like, not me. So I was like, okay, that was weird. So I was going through and asking more questions. And finally, right before I decided to leave, I ended up saying, if we're bothering you, if you're trying to get some rest, let us know and we'll leave. And the light went on one more time in the car with us. So I said, okay, everyone, to be respectful, let's go ahead and leave. So I went outside and I said, look, guys, I'm not going to be mad. If any of you guys played a joke, a Halloween joke, it is October, I'll laugh. I just want to know that this is real evidence. And, of course, everyone's face was like, hell no, we didn't do anything, all right? So I ended up contacting the guy who pretty much runs the station. He does a lot of this stuff. His name's Bryce. And I said, Bryce, this is what happened. I need to know whether this is real. And I told him the story of the light coming on. And I didn't hear him. I said, Bryce, are you still there? He said, Jay, I'm kind of freaked out. I said, why are you freaked out? He says, I couldn't turn those lights on if I wanted to. There's problems with electrical in that car. It's had issues for about 5 or 6 months now.
Listen to that. That's amazing.
Absolutely
So there's your proof.
Amazing. Oh, well, yeah, it's crazy. Now, of course, the worst part is we didn't have that videoed. So we only have all the people who were in the car to do it. That was one of the things that we didn't have video. But we still have that memory, and it was so unique. So the 26 years one that we got in the car, what's fascinating, that would have dated back to 1991. Train cars at that time were very popular for the homeless. So it's very possible that there might be a spirit that may have died in one of those cars. So my next step is going to end up going down to the police and see if I can get any records of 1991 in the train depot there to see if there's any casualties, anyone that died. If so, we'll have a direct, know exactly what that 26 years could be relating to.
Yeah, what a great idea. Yeah, to source that way. Wow. So that's a really haunted area, and obviously you have found a terrific way to work with people and spirits. And what about other spots in Knoxville? Because you refer to it, and a lot of people refer to it as the most haunted city in America. And you've given us reason to know why, based on everything that's gone on in the past. What are some of the other places you've been to?
Well, there is the Bijou Theater. The Bijou Theater is classified in the top 100 haunted places in the Southeast. It was used by both Confederate and Union during the Civil War as a headquarters. So it's very possible that the blue and gray jackets are still fighting each other inside the building. It connects to a high-ranking officer that actually died up in that building, and there's unfinished business because they buried him behind the backs of the city and the soldiers at that time. So that was really not very proper behavior, farewell for a high-ranking officer. So William Sanders could be potentially haunting that location. There's also the famed Baker Peters house, which is over in West Knoxville, where a doctor, a little town doctor during the Civil War, he was aligned with the Confederacy. So once Union occupied the city, they basically sent a militia to his house, and long story short, they ended up killing Dr. Baker by shooting through his bedroom door, and he died on the second floor. But that location is highly haunted. I actually had one of my first personal experiences down in the basement where his medical office was. I got touched on in an investigation. And as cool a cat as I am, when you're in the dark and something touches you on the shoulder, it's gonna get you to yipe. And I still go back
and especially in the basement.
Laugh.
I think the basement is one of the worst places to be for anything. And so what happened? You were down there by yourself and you felt that tap on your shoulder?
Well, I had a friend of mine doing some videotaping, and then I had an apprentice who I was kind of training her to get used to her sensitivity, being able to recognize and not be so scared of paranormal investigation and stuff. So basically she was just a trainee, and I was just, teaching her a little bit. So she was there as well, and we were feeling an overwhelming amount of energy in that basement, and very possible because Dr. Baker was a caring man, and during the Civil War, he would be helping soldiers, and we felt just the energy of soldiers in that basement, and basically we felt as though Abner was there, because basically Abner came back during the war and found out his dad was killed by Union scum, basically is what he would call it, and basically he decided to go downtown as a lone Confederate soldier into the Lion's Den to confront the man that turned his dad in. And he confronted the man downtown, and the man did the biggest insult at that time. He hit him over the head with his cane. Now that right there started duels back in the day. Well, Abner ended up pulling out his pocket Derringer gun and shot him right in the head. And, of course, he was mobbed. He was thrown in jail. He didn't last 24 hours because of a lynch mob. So the lynch mob came and basically required the jail to release him, or else they had burned down the building. And basically, long story short, they dragged him around town behind horseback and hung him in multiple locations downtown as an example of what you do not do in a Union-occupied city. But he was given one of the biggest monuments in the First Presbyterian graveyard, which I believe that if Abner's here, he's probably there partially because of the love and adoration that was given to him for avenging his father's death, you know. But the city is just so crooked.
He did avenge it, but at what a cost. Yeah, that's just a terrible story.
I mean, just to give you an idea, most people don't know this, in the 1800s, Knoxville was one of the most dangerous cities in America. It was really the Wild East. Oh, gosh, yeah. I mean, you had to carry a gun on our main street, which is called Gay Street. You couldn't walk down the street without a gunslinger on your side. Stories in the early 1800s would say you'd be lucky to make it to the city alive from the boats because we had this massive hill that takes you up to the top of the hill. And we had the famed river people down there looting, robbing, and killing people for the goods they had on their boats. It was so bad. And even stories about all the hangings that were done right downtown. Thousands would come to watch these hangings. And I found an accounts showing that the sheriff himself was selling pieces of the noose for souvenirs. Holy cow.
My God.
This was a wild city.
It sounds much worse than the Wild West because it sounded like, at least in some of the stories we've heard from investigators in the Wild West, that there was some level of honor. But it doesn't sound like that in Knoxville. It sounds like it was every person for themselves and gangs and, oh, my.
Oh, yeah. You know what's
wow,
fascinating?
No wonder it's so rich with hauntings.
Well, that's the thing. Going through all this history, I was saying to myself, wow, this could be one of the most haunted cities in the country just with how much stuff I'm running across. I'm like, I can't keep up with all this stuff, how bad it was. I'm like, this is absolutely wicked. And truly about the wicked part, there's a statue down by the river that has some kind of a quote, but basically says, the devil has arrived in Knoxville. And you know what?
Wow.
Back in the day, it really did kind of arrive in Knoxville. I'm not saying it's dangerous now. It's a wonderful, beautiful city to visit. So many amazing things. I'm a huge cheerleader for the city. But if we're talking about its history, I'm not going to lie about it. I'm not going to sweep it underneath the carpet. I'm going to tell you the truth. This city was bad. It was really bad, but it makes a great story, and it's part of our history.
Now, let me ask you this, J. Adam, when it comes to all these spooky stories, that I understand the reason that it's so haunted. What about with cryptids and all kinds of creatures like Bigfoot and things like that? Have there been any stories that you've heard around those topics?
I really don't work too much in the cryptozoological aspect. I know that back in the day they had myths and legends about different kinds of animals that were around the shorelines and all that. But I really never followed that too much because it hasn't really been my focus. It's not that I don't believe in a lot of that stuff. And sometimes with that I've noticed is that some of the traditions will share about, what's that animal that's down in like South America that takes the shape of a human
Chupacabra?
And an animal. There it is, Chupacabra. Thank you. I was losing my train of thought there for a second. Well, that one's a fascinating one because I'm actually a shaman with the Cherokee Chickamauga Wolf Clan. I earned the position of an honorary shaman with that, with showing my abilities with my spiritual counseling, my interaction with spirit, and also my energy healing and spirit combat. And what's fascinating once with learning more about the Native American cultures is that we can take on animal spirits. We can actually, if we're needing the assistance of a particular animal and the strength from that animal, we can become the bear. And whether or not there was, imagery being added to some of these stories in relations to that we can use Mother Earth and we can use the animals to assist us, it's very possible that could have gotten in the folklore. Do I believe in, extraterrestrial and alien and all that kind of stuff? The answer is yes. The universe is way too vast. And I believe that, if anyone's alien, we are. We're alien on this planet Earth.
Yeah, we are the aliens, right?
Exactly.
Isn't that what
we're
isn't that what that NASA billionaire said? He said we're the aliens, and he said they're right under our noses. Kind of makes you think it's us. So yes. So I just was curious about it because I know in the South there's been a number of stories that have been reported about Wolfman, Bigfoot, and other types of creatures like that, and I wondered if Knoxville had their own. But certainly they have enough other things going on to make it a fascinating place to visit, and certainly you're going for. That's got to be
one of the things that I like to do is I like to stay very scientific.
List.
Yeah, I like to stay very scientific when I do my stuff. When I have the experience, when I have the personal experience, I tend to be a little bit more of a cheerleader in relations to it. I don't deny some of these stories and these things going on, but I really want hard facts. I want myths and legends are nice. For example, I found that there was a myth and legend about an undertaker's office downtown. I found a location that was mysteriously empty, and it's one of our ground zero locations, and there's nothing there. And I started pulling up. I'm like, wow, fascinating. There was an undertaker's office here for a long time. Then I found out this is not just a undertaker's office. This was the undertaker's office. Like, wow, this undertaker's company has been around for 150 years. Started in 1870. Holy cow. And then I started getting into and hearing there's a myth and legend about the organization saying that initially that they were a little crooked. And I'm like, So, of course, I don't want to obviously jump to conclusions and say the myths and legends are true, but what I will try to do is see if there's any way I can substantiate the claim, see if I can make truth out of that. So then I started thinking, okay, in the 1800s, what kind of stuff could Undertaker's office be doing that's crooked? And then I saw around the world they were selling bodies. I'm like, okay. Then I said,
oh wow,
could that have been? Then I was like, could that be Knoxville? Then I started looking up where was it common practice to sell bodies, and then I found out in cities with medical schools. I was like, because they're selling bodies to the schools. Then I started researching Knoxville. I'm like, I wonder if we had a medical school, and finding out that we've had a prominent medical school since the early 1800s. I'm like, okay, so we have a medical school, and it's only a mile away. It's like a straight shot from this location. I'm like, that would be convenient. So I started putting all these pieces together saying, this myth and legend might have some real merit to it, but see what I'm trying to do? I'm never going to find an actual document that says, you're not going to find that. But I start substantiating it through the possibility that this could be true.
Yes, it adds up. I mean, 1 + 1 makes 2 here. Certainly, if they were a bit crooked, that would have been the way they'd go. So they were charging people for funerals and acting like they were burying their loved ones, and they were selling them off to the medical school.
Potentially, but this is what's fascinating. I took it even further. I decided to push the fringe a little bit. So here I am. I'm doing these investigations like, how many people know this location? And the answer is none. This is one of those locations that you could live your whole life in Knoxville, and very rarely will anyone be able to put the pieces together like I did. So no one knows of this location. So what I decided to do is I blind tested some psychics from out of state. So I brought them on a private excursion with me to different locations. And before I brought them to this one, I wanted to see whether they were decent quality before I did so. So I brought them to one location, which was the old courthouse. And she was walking along the sidewalk. She didn't even go onto the property where the old courthouse is. She was walking on the sidewalk. And she started looking up, like 15. She's like, there was a really big fence back in the day, like 15 feet tall. And I was taking note because I know my history of that spot. She starts walking some more. She's like, there's someone guarding this fence. He's wearing like a red jacket. This psychic recognized that there was in the late 1700s, early 1800s, a federal barracks there. I was like, okay, this girl, she's good. She's good.
She knows what she's doing. Yes, good.
Exactly. She could see the what's there today, the old courthouse, and talk about that. But she went way back before even the old courthouse was there. So then I decided to walk her around this Undertaker location that she has no clue. And what was interesting is when she got to that location, she was led to the back door, not the front door. I'm like, whoa, look where she's going. She's walking to the back door. And she went to that area, and her face was puzzled. She looked at the ground. She looked back up. She looked at the ground, and she said, was this place dealing in body parts? I'm like, my
wow,
God.
she hit it.
I was like,
good for her.
There's no way she would have known that. So I was like, okay, all right. I think there might have been something going on at this location, you know. So I bring that up to my participants. But isn't that exciting? This is the kind of stuff that my participants get to experience with me, not a random tour guide, but I get to walk them around. I get to share my excitement for the Knoxville history. I get to give them all this amazing research that I've done, and then I train them. I actually put everyone through a ghost hunting 101, where they actually get to be the investigator and like, okay, here's how to use it properly. Here's how to debunk. Here's how to recognize something a little weird. You know, make sure you call in support if you get something weird. All this. So by the end of 2.5 hours, they literally know how to investigate.
That is such a great thing that you're doing, J. Adam. Really, it's because you're combining all the right elements to give people a positive experience. Now, we're going to take a very short commercial break, come back, and hear more of your adventures in Knoxville. This is great, J. Adam. I'm so glad you're here with us. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back.
Are you ready for a new experience of freedom and powerful connection? Would you like a positive, effortless change in your life? Then come to CosmicFusion.com, where we offer the most advanced energy clearing and expansion techniques in the world, with a quantum vortex energy to activate your divine blueprint and life's purpose. When your soul leads the way with cosmic fusion and quantum vortex energy, you can break clear of past difficulties and blocks with the power of the source. With cosmic fusion, the source energy does the work for you. It's easy and effortless. Listen to our free meditation right from our Cosmic Fusion website, the Cosmic Code Meditation. Sign up for one of our interactive webinars today. Come to Cosmic Fusion, www.KOSMICfusion.com, to experience an effortless awakening and transformation. Are you ready for an upgrade? Are you ready for a new experience of living in the fifth dimensional magic and powerful connection? Then visit CosmicFusion.com today. CosmicFusion.com.
Your property tax bill. Have you seen it lately? It's frightening. Your property taxes are going up while your home value is going down. It's time to fight back and win. For the real truth about the property tax system, get attorney Pat Quintilian's book, Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Attorney Quintilian answers all your questions and gives you the facts you need to fight a property tax bill that is spiraling out of control. You'll also read about what happens to property owners who don't check their property records, only to find out too late they're taxed on square footage, fixtures, and even buildings that they don't own. Is this happening to you? Learn your rights. Buy attorney Pat Quintilian's book today. Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Available on Amazon.com.
Astridian is a family of cosmetic products with 98% pure ionized minerals. We combine our science with a blend of essential oils to nourish and take care of your skin's health. How does it work? All Astridian products contain the proprietary redox technology, having the capability of simulating an ionic zinc-copper superoxide dismutase effect. This free radical scavenger currently in your body has been diminished by toxins and the daily stresses of life. It is a perfectly balanced mineral complex that all $200 an hour dermatologists, their professors, and ancient history have proven. Redox technology is a process of reducing the skin's oxidation by transferring electrons from a radical state to a stress-free normal condition. Oxidative stress is a form of cellular aging, and as science has proven, a precursor to disease. The free radical theory of aging states that organisms age because cells accumulate free radical damage over time. Damaged cells are not beautiful, but healthy cells are. The Astridian family is presented in 4 different uses that cover unique benefits to your body. They are the Essential Anti-Aging Series, the Multivitamin Series, Sports Series, and Professional Series. Regain your youth with the power of Astridian. Visit www.astridian.com and inquire. Use the code SUPERNATURAL and receive a 10% discount on your first purchase. Australian, the beauty of being healthy.
Welcome back, everyone, to Supernatural Girls Radio. I'm your host, Patricia Baker, and I'm here with our terrific guest tonight on Halloween, J. Adam Smith. He is a Knoxville ghost hunter historian, and we are hearing all about his adventures in the beautiful city of Knoxville, heavily haunted. My gosh, J. Adam, sounds like just about every building you go into is filled with spirits. So tell us more.
It is. Oh, man, there's so much more to talk about in relations to downtown Knoxville. One is also fascinating is the Wild Bunch, Wild West days. We were talking about how Knoxville was the Wild East. We all know the Wild West. So it's kind of like that hidden secret city. And, of course, for those of you who know your Wild West stories, you got the Wild Bunch with Butch and Sundance. And, of course, they're known for the biggest train robbery in American history. Well, what's fascinating is one of the most dangerous outlaws in that gang, his name was Harvey Logan, a.k.a. Kid Curry. Well, Kid Curry, after they robbed that train, he decided to shave his mustache, which he kind of hid behind that mustache on all his wanted posters is what it showed. But what's weird is Kid Curry didn't go to L.A. or New York or any of these big cities. He decided to come to Knoxville. And I think that's the part that people need to understand is why would this famed outlaw come here? And it's because it was calling him.
We had
100 plus bars and brothels, and we were truly a dangerous place. It was a place for the rough and tough and the outlaw type. And he enjoyed his money, I am sure.
Yeah, I mean, people back then, it's not like today with cameras and everybody would have noticed if somebody came into a place, or a lot of people would have seen him. Nobody would have noticed, especially when he didn't have his mustache on, right? So he could have disappeared into the bowels of Knoxville, and nobody would have known who he was.
Exactly, and he got away with it for a couple months. And I'm sure that he had a good time with all of his winnings and being that rich tycoon in a way with all the money he had. But then one day at Ike's Saloon, an officer picked a random fight. And this is what's fascinating. An officer picked a fight with him. This kind of shows you a little bit of the underbelly. All the stories say it was instigated by the police officer. But at some point during the brawl, they recognized it was Kid Curry. And at that point, it all got real. And basically, long story short, they ended up chasing after each other, and he killed a couple officers with some wounds that basically could not heal, and was captured and was tried right in the city. And what's fascinating about it is all the history books. They say that initially they stuck him in the jail. That was the main jail, and of course he was known for escaping jails in the past. He was put in jail, and basically he was borrowing a broom to sweep out his cell and stole the wiring around the bottom, and basically got the jailer up the door, got it around his neck, and disarmed him, took his keys, and was last seen crossing the Gay Street Bridge on the sheriff's horse. But what's truly fascinating about the story
that's hilarious.
I found contrary information.
Oh, okay.
And that's really where it's fascinating. So I'm sure those who are listening, and possibly you as well, you're probably familiar with the Pinkerton Detective Agency. Now,
yes.
Pinkerton got their start with Abraham Lincoln as security. But what people don't understand about the Wild West days is the banks were losing a ton of money because of these outlaws that are going into these cities with fast horses and wild guns. So the bankers got desperate, and they decided to hire the Pinkertons not as security, but as mercenaries. So we have the movie Deadpool that we love watching today and stuff. And Deadpool's about this merc, he's a merc, he's a mercenary. Well, back in the day, these Pinkertons were mercenaries. But see, it wouldn't have been smart for these Pinkertons to try to get in a shootout with some of these outlaws they're going after, because these outlaws, they knew their gun very well, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So what did the Pinkertons do? They got super smart. They decided to infiltrate the gangs as one of them, build the trust, be there for a while, kind of like fishing, be patient.
So they were like secret agents.
Exactly.
Going in there
but this
undercover.
is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and this is what happened. After a while, once they build that trust, they'll rob the bank, and they'll be miles out from the city they just robbed, and they'll be sleeping around the fire. In the middle of the night, they'd gank them all.
Oh, wow.
They wouldn't
That's
go back
something.
with an outlaw they slain. They'd go back with a wagon full.
Oh, my goodness. So do you think that's what happened to Kid Curry?
Well, to continue the story, I read in the memoirs of a retired Pinkerton agent, very well respected. He wrote a book about the good, the bad, and the ugly in relations to the Pinkerton organization. Mm-hmm. And this book, when it was written right around the 1920s area, Pinkertons were scared to death. They were like, we do not want you to write this book. He wrote it anyhow. The Pinkertons bought up every copy, then put it on the banned book list. But you know what's awesome about us today? Yeah. What's awesome about us today is we can read thanks to our Freedom of Information Act. So this book you can actually find.
See?
And
they
there was
can't
a
hide it anymore.
Yep. There was
Curry
a chapter on
Kid
Curry in Knoxville. And I'm like, oh my God! And this is as you can hear in my voice, I'm like, I'm giddy like a school kid because here I am. I'm spending this time.
About it.
Yeah, I'm running. I'm spending all this time, and I'm just like, I hope I find a good one today. And I'll spend all 8 hours in there, researching. And I'm like, I found one. I got a good one. And I got over 40 ground zeros now.
Yeah, wow. Now, did they take him out? Did the Pinkertons take Kid Curry and get rid of him?
So I got your attention, didn't I? You're like, I want to know more of the end of this one.
We have this romantic image of him riding off on the sheriff's horse, but then something else happened.
But this is fascinating. So So I read that chapter, and the chapter said that the Pinkertons were kind of scared at the end, early 1900s, because they were running out of outlaws to go after. He said in that chapter that the Pinkertons paid the sheriff equal to almost $3,000 in early 1900s and all the food his horse could eat to ensure that Kid Curry gets out unharmed. So the question is, did he escape from his jail, or did the sheriff let him out and give him his horse?
What a great
story.
Isn't
that crazy? It's absolutely crazy. And so you have all these history books that talk about Kid Curry, and you don't hear about this. And I think we as people need to start questioning things, researching more, instead of taking whoever's writing this book's word for as truth. And I think the history books tend to be written by the cities and the people who want to cover up things and keep things a certain way. Knoxville is beautiful. Knoxville is amazing, but it's got that underbelly that we can learn from and also remember, because it makes a great story, obviously.
It
but
does.
The thing is in the 1800s, a lot of the stories tend to be hidden, and it's hard to find. One is fascinating because there was a three-way homicide that happened right on Gay Street, and it was right after the Civil War. It happened October 18th, 1882. And it was between two ex-Civil War high-ranking officers. So the city, understand everyone who's listening, the reason Knoxville has so much issues is because we were one of the few divided loyalty cities. So we were pretty much right half 50-50 with Confederate and Union. And basically we lost the city. It was originally Confederate, then it went Union. And it basically is bouncing back and forth. So after the Civil War is done, people are going back to their old homesteads, and they're still aligned with the different sides. And what happened was constant fighting. It was so bad.
Yeah.
So here we have the story with these two high-ranking officers that had a shootout in Gay Street, and even the son got involved and got killed. 3 of them all died. And the reason we remember it today, because someone famous got off the boats that day and happened to arrive in this city. And we all are familiar with this writer because his name is Mark Twain.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
So Mark Twain, if he did not arrive on the day he did and see this horrible spectacle right in front of his eyes, it is very possible that that story, the Mabry O'Connor shootout, could have been lost as well. The
Absolutely,
thing is, sometimes this history is saved by these few individuals that go in and say, you're not going to change what I see. You're not going to change what I'm going to tell about and tell you about this history. I'm going to tell you what I see. And Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens, thank goodness he existed, right? Because you know, he showed what it was like back in those days, because if it wasn't for him, I don't know. Our history books, I think, would be a little different, don't you think?
I think so. Absolutely. I agree with you. Yes. I mean, there are very few people like that would be able to have the integrity to tell what they saw, and also the talent to write that way. So he was an amazing person, no question. But gosh, I mean, this is as much as you're saying you love Knoxville now, I think I'd still have some pause about going there today. I mean, I'm happy to go on your ghost tour because it sounds like a lot of fun, and it also gives you some real experience. But my goodness, the background of this city is frightening.
Oh, yeah, and I love it when people are like, you know, when I first started the tours, they're like, I was like, they're like, what are you doing here? I'm trying to do my best Tennessee accent. They're like, what are you doing out here?
You must have wondered if you were going to be hanging from a tree. Jeez.
Well, there were definitely those who didn't like what I was doing, but it's just funny. They're like, what are you doing there? I'm like, well, we're investigating the paranormal. You're doing what? I'm like, yeah, we're investigating the spirits around here. And they're like, ghosts don't exist. I almost wanted to respond back saying, if ghosts are going to exist, they're definitely going to be in this city.
No kidding. Now, J. Adam, where are you from? Where were you born?
I was actually born in New Hampshire, but spent most of my life in sunny Florida.
Okay, because I was going to say, you sound like a northerner, so.
I don't say the
That's a big strike against you in the South.
It is, and it's funny because when we were interacting with Abner Baker at the Baker Peters investigation when I got touched, it was fascinating because we were getting responses that Abner almost did not want to talk to me, and we're like, why? And we got, because I was a northerner. I was what do you call that? Not union. What's another way you can call it? Another terminology. I'm having issue with my memory. Whatever.
You would have been an adversary. You would have been on the wrong team. That's for sure.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yes.
So, but what's fascinating was what actually got me into this field. And I'm sure those who are listening, they're hearing what I've done here in Knoxville. But I'm sure that one of the things that most terrifying in relations to me in investigating was my first experience. And I think most people who investigate, the most terrifying is when that first aspect of understanding that there's more out here, the spirits out here, and it's scary, And I bought a 1923 house that was in Leesburg, Florida, and I felt like I'd literally hit the gold mine. I found this beautiful old 1923 house, 2-story house on a corner lot, literally catty corner across from a park with a fountain in the middle, 2 blocks away from downtown. It was amazing, and I'm a violinist outside of all the stuff I do, and I was creating a violin school. So I was going to live in the house and also have a place to teach. So I had all this elaborate ideas, and I get in there, and literally within the first 2 weeks, I'm outside tending my garden to get it ready, and someone drives by and hangs out the window and says, "Hey, mister, your house is haunted, don't you?" They weren't making it a question. They were more like telling me, it is, don't you?
Yeah, this is how it is.
And, of course, in my response, because I didn't believe in ghosts at that time, I was like, no, thank you. I was like, but this is what's interesting, because it makes sense now with my experience with investigating. I blew it off, and I didn't recognize anything
did?
for about 2. Oh yeah, I blew it off. I'm like, okay, there's a crazy person online, whatever, But I kind of blew it off. 2 months, nothing. But then after 2 months point is when things started happening, and it makes sense because you move into a new place. The spirits are going to be kind of watching you from afar at first. They want to see what you're about. So most people who buy a new place, they'll recognize the activity isn't right at the beginning. It takes a little time for it to happen. And that's exactly what happened in this house. I started recognizing lights turning on upstairs and faucets turning on. I'm like, what is going on with this? I can't figure out why it's going on. But of course, I'm gonna try to, okay, there's something wrong with electrical. I'm gonna blow it off the best I can. But then cold spots started coming out of nowhere. Weird emotions inside the place started happening. I started recognizing one of my friends. Oh, and your listeners are gonna love this. I had a friend. Her name was Lindsay, and she had the cutest little, well, not little, the big baby boxer dog, and it was the cutest thing. Obviously, very energetic and always all over you and wanting to give you kisses and stuff. And I remember the dog's behavior in general because I'd go and visit her and stuff. Well, she decided to come over and brought Otis. As soon as they walked through the door, Otis gets down in a low position, tail between his legs, and acting very skittish in my house. And I knew it was weird because Lindsay said, "Otis, what is up with you?" So when I observed the dog and I observed the way she was responding to the dog, I was like, something is up here. Something is up here. And I was already starting to get into trying to understand paranormal investigation. So I was starting to research, and I was actually working on getting my certification in paranormal investigation, a distance learning thing, just to get more knowledge, to understand what I'm doing, because I knew nothing about this. All I knew was in a house. I was in a house that was having issues. So anyhow, I basically started becoming the teacher at that point. I started becoming the person who can lead because I recognized something was going on, and I learned about saging and smudging a house. I learned about how that
did that help?
Actually help things. Oh,
did that
my
help?
God, it did. I started recognizing when I did it, it was working. So I decided to use Lindsay and Otis as teaching tool, as a test. I basically was, I was like, you know what? I'm going to see whether this works. So I decided to put them both in. Before I did that, Otis did one more thing that literally, truly alarmed me. He went into one of the rooms and started growling at a wall. My first impression was there a reflection? Was there something there? Was there maybe a mouse or something, or something that? But he was growling like a protective growl at that wall. And at that point, I was like, okay, I got to try something. I think I have an idea what's going on. So I decided to put them both in my office that was excluded. Shut the door and said, I'll be right back. I didn't want to alarm them because I wanted them to be a guinea pig. I wanted them to treat it scientifically. So I shut the door and I started walking around with sage and burning sage and said, "Darkness, leave now. Darkness, leave now. This is protected by Father God," and all this, going through and taking care of it. So after I finished, I opened the door and says, "Okay, guys, come on out." Otis walks around without any problems at all. Lindsay comes out, and she says, "What did you do?" I responded, "What do you mean, what did I do?" She says, "It feels different." I'm like, "Explain that more. How does it feel different?" She says, "It feels inviting, and it doesn't feel cold and damp." I said, "Really?"
So you were
she says,
successful. You were able to actually banish whatever was there.
I did.
Good
and
for
then
you.
Otis is walking around, and she's like, "Otis is behaving different. What on earth is going on?" I said, "Do you really want to know?" She says, "I want to know." I said, "I might scare you."
Yeah.
I said, "My house, I feel as though it's been haunted. I've had a lot of issues in here. And a lot of times hauntings will have spirits that kind of like to observe you." So, before I put her in the office, I also kind of asked her to analyze Otis's behavior when he was growling at that wall, because I saw her going, "Oh," she's like, "Otis, what are you doing?" And I knew it was unusual, so I asked her at that time, I said, "Lindsay, can you tell me last time you saw Otis behave that way?" And she's like, no, wait, one time. And I looked at her and says, "One time's all I need." She says, "I remember taking Otis into a party. A lot of people were there, and there was this person in the back, and he was in the shadows, and you couldn't make him out, but you can kind of see that he was watching us. And Otis got really protective." I'm like, Oh, I know what's going
boy.
on. There's an entity watching us, and Otis didn't like it. So, so anyhow, when I told her all this news, she's like, "Oh my God!" I'm like, "Yeah." So what did I do? You're gonna love this. I had to get out of that house because when I did research for the house, I found out in the 1980s, not 1880s, in the 1980s, in this 1923 house, the house was used as a nursing home. They did not disclose that when I bought it. So, one of the things
it's almost like a hospice
truly,
type situation.
You got it. People would have died here. And what really, truly freaked me out the most, with all the haunted aspects I had, is one night I was testing out my air mattress in the front living room for a camping trip. Right around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, I got woken up to a male moan inside my house.
Ooh.
And I was like, this is too much. I ran to my parents'
spooky.
house at 4 o'clock in the morning. Oh, yeah, I ran to my parents' house at 4 o'clock and knocking on the door, and they're waking up, and they're opening the door, and they're like, honey, why are you here? I'm like, I don't want to tell you.
Yeah,
and they're like pulling it out of me. Yeah, they're pulling it out of me. They're like, tell us, please. And I'm like, I think my house is haunted. And they said, okay, come on in. I'm like, wait a second. I thought I was going to get the 3rd degree from you, but so they basically opened up and they said, do you remember when we lived in New Jersey for that 1 year when Dad got transferred? And I'm like, yeah. Well, we felt like that house was haunted. We didn't want to scare you kids.
Oh, my.
So basically,
you had
when
that
we were
experience and didn't even know it.
Exactly. Well, it was weird because I remember when I was a kid, I must have been somewhere around 9 or 10, and I remember that my bedroom is on the 2nd floor and there was an attic, and I remember in the middle of the night I could hear things moving around above my head, but I always played it off, or my sister played it off as if it was, mice or rats or something like that. But there had to have been some reason, and I really never got out any more from my parents in relations to what exactly made them to believe that that was a haunted house.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just interesting that I didn't get the 3rd degree. They actually understood that they understand that their place will be haunted like that.
So funny. Yeah, that's great. So they just said, come on in, and you went up to your bedroom, and that was the end of it. But, I do find with nursing home hospice type, not hospice as we know it today, but, years ago in the 80s, that so many people did have dementia or Alzheimer's, and, they just didn't know where they were when they were alive. So when they cross over, they didn't know where they were when they were dead. So I can imagine that your house was pretty populated. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And what's fascinating is that they have this field called parapsychology. And understanding psychology, especially in relation to paranormal, it doesn't take much more than just regular psychology. When you understand the psychology behind a person, that's still going to go to the other side. So you can only guess that some of these hospice patients, they may never have gotten visited by family. They could be very angry and sad and all that. And what I got from the energy from that male voice that was in the moan that was in my house is that it definitely seemed like an older person. It definitely seemed like there's some arrogance behind it, and that they were trying to scare me, which they did. Obviously at that time. At this point, I'm not afraid of spirits because I'm a light worker. So working in holistic energy healing fields and spiritual counseling, we'll just say that dark spirits don't mess with me, because if they do, I'm gonna send all hell at them, because I'm very much protected by my angels and all this. Basically, these spirits. Oh, I'll tell you something that's absolutely hilarious. I remember one day, because I have the ability to kind of recognize where the entities are coming from. So I was like, okay, you're over there. I sent you. And I sensed hostility from the entity. And I was like, I said out loud, I said, look, if you don't leave, I'm going to take care of you. And I just felt this energy off of it empathically, that it was just really nasty and basically wanted to try to scare me and all this kind of stuff, and just was very cocky. The spirit entity was really cocky, thinking that it was more powerful than me. And I says, I'm going to give you the count of 5. If you don't get out of here by the count of 5, I'm calling my angels. And I almost felt from him like, go ahead, try. That's the energy I was getting from it. So I was like, okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I'm like, okay, you're not gone. And I started calling Michael, Gabriel, Peter, Raphael. I want you to show them who I have. And I could literally feel emotion off the entity of fear at this point. It was hilarious. Now, initially I got cockiness, like I'm stronger than you. I'm gonna mess with you. I'm gonna cause you problems. And then it changed straight up to fear. I'm like, exactly. You called upon this to yourself.
Yeah, that's right. You did exactly the right thing, and you obviously have a very good connection with your angelic helpers, and they're looking out for you, and you knew how and when to call them, which is great. I mean, we've had people on the show that talk about when you encounter entities like that, you can laugh at them. They hate that because they want you to be afraid. So you did exactly the right thing.
You are absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct, and I'm so happy you said that. Understand that one of the biggest issues of paranormal investigation is these TV shows that are really pushing on the fear. Everyone wants to get scared, and I don't understand why everyone loves getting scared so much, but something weird with the society is the scared seems to be a popular thing.
Yeah,
and
really,
when you're
what's that
scared,
about?
Exactly. And I got a question. If you're scared, where is a person's energy? It's gone.
Where?
So when you're scared, your life force energy, your aura is weak. It's gone.
Yes. And
so basically, when you're scared,
paralyzed.
Exactly. When you're scared, you literally unlock your doors to be messed with by spirits. So want to know what my legacy with paranormal, my ghost tours in Knoxville? People are completely shocked. They're like, you're a light worker and you're a ghost hunter? You do ghost tours? What? I says, you see the surface. You don't see what I'm doing under the surface. What I'm doing under the surface is I'm taking the fear out of paranormal. Do you know that I have the first ever Girl Scout ghost hunting merit badge program?
Oh, my gosh. How fantastic is that? Good for you. I love it. That's
so
fantastic.
They learn science, history, and teamwork, and they learn that, you can't change the fact that spirits are here, but they're just like great-grandma, nothing to be afraid of. I remember what pushed me into creating this merit badge. I remember a few years ago, I had this grandmother contact me after a tour. She says, I want to thank you. And she just kept on over and over, I really, really want to thank you. And I'm like, why are you thanking me? It's my honor to take you guys around. She says, I want to thank you because my granddaughter can sleep in her bedroom by herself now.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? Gosh. So you're really creating a lot of healing with what you're doing on so many levels. I mean, bringing the history into this, again, letting people have their own personal experience, but also making sure, like you said, that people are not being followed home by anything that they're going to be afraid of. What a wonderful, wonderful experience you're offering. It's great, J. Adam. It's terrific. Hey, please give everybody your website again and your Facebook page so that they'll know where to go to get information in case they're going to make a trip down to your neck of the woods.
I would love that. For those who are listening, thank you so much for sticking around and listening and to my stories and all my jibber jabber. But here are different ways that you can follow us. One, you can follow our ghost tours, which is hauntedknoxville.net. Yes, I kept that .net for a reason because I'm not selling myself out to the .com.
Okay.
And you can go to that hauntedknoxville.net and you'll notice that the calendar is there, and it's got everything from our flagship, which is our walking tour, to our special events, which is the Nightmare on a Track, which we talked about. We have the new Great Fire Investigation, which is investigating the first time ever, the $1 Million Fire that happened in 1897. And this is the most elite tour that we currently have downtown because while you're investigating with me, we actually are having our general manager watching the night vision cameras, and while you're investigating on walkie-talkies, he's going to let us know. By the way, that lady in the orange shirt, there's an orb over her head. So while you're investigating with the tools, we're actually going to be watched by the night vision cameras as well. Totally neat. Adds a little extra level to that investigation.
Cool. Yeah, that's
and then,
wonderful.
And of course,
now,
you also want to follow me personally.
Yes,
I want to give them all my websites.
Yes,
so the other website is me personally, and it's the letter J, adamsmith.net. You can go to that site there, and you can see all the different things. If you like this interview here, you'll probably see a lot of other interviews, and you'll see a bunch of links that you can go and listen to different interviews. Every interview I do is different. We talk about different stuff. Some you can learn a little bit more about the paranormal field and all that, and I definitely invite you to do that.
Yeah, please go look up J. Adam. You're a terrific guest. Now, let me just ask you a little bit about the tools, because you mentioned that you're creating your own tools. So tell us all about that, because my audience loves to hear about tools. So please share.
Well, that's the greatest thing about paranormal investigation is that equipment has come a long way. And as we talked before we started on air, one of the reasons why we have this amazing tools is thanks to the 1984 movie Ghostbusters. They started bringing out some cool, wicked tools and stuff, and people started thinking, I wonder maybe if I could make some tools. So, of course, through the years, they've gotten better and better and better. Well, I was lucky enough to run across a man. His name is Jason Clowers, and he's got Clowers ITC, which you can actually buy some of his tools currently. He's got an E-Pod and a REM pod and a spirit box that he's making. But what happened was I bought one of his tools because I loved how it was reasonably priced, and I loved that it was handmade. So I me being a scientist, I'm like, I want to know how to use this effectively. So I asked him, can I call you? So I called him and talked to him, and he was so nice. Jason was so nice, and he just explains, like, this is how it's supposed to work, and this is why we believe it works, and this is how to use it right. But then we started just talking, and I started sharing. I says, I've always had these crazy ideas for different tools, and I've always wanted someone who can make it. And he says, so what ideas are those? So something in me felt comfortable to go ahead and share with him some of my ideas. And while I was sharing these ideas, I was like, Jason, are you still there? His response was, yes, I'm taking notes. I said, that is so cool. You're really into this. So basically, long story short, we're going back and forth, and he loves that I'm coming from an aspect of hands-on, paranormal expert aspect, master teacher. I understand how these tools work, and I also know what areas I would like to fix. And I like this tool, but I'd like it to have this. I like this tool, but I'd like this to happen. So basically what he's doing is he's going to work with me, and I'm going to be his tester. I'm also going to be the face of the product as well. Basically, these tools have been endorsed by me, a professional investigator. But basically, we're taking these tools to the next level, and our motto is going to be the professional tool for the professional investigator. And the goal is to have these releasing in 2019.
That is terrific. Now tell me, what are the upgrades? How do you envision professional investigators using these tools? How is it just going to be easier to use and more comprehensive and providing video and stills and audio, or how are you doing this?
Well, that's a great question. Some stuff I can tell you, some stuff I can't. One area is that we are about ready to release some tools that have never been done before. It's a particular angle on paranormal investigation, but I can't give any more than that because I don't want anyone to try to beat us to where we're going on this.
Yeah, exactly.
But there are some tools that we're looking at doing. One's going to be it's going to be like a Paratouch, basically, and we're going to have a device that's going to be able to recreate the possibility of being touched. So say you have an individual that will go into the dark into one of these rooms. We'll have units that are connected to a unit that has a bunch of leads that go onto your shoulder and your neck and all this, and basically be able to recognize if something actually tries. You can say, hey, can you touch me on the shoulder, and actually be able to recognize something's touching you on the shoulder. So that's going to be a neat one there. We're also going to have handheld devices that's going to be able to allow you to monitor motion detectors from afar. So you can have some places, some motion detectors set in different parts of the house and be able to be in the basement and be able to recognize if those other rooms have been triggered to you wirelessly. Just so many different angles, so many different things that all the tools are going to be updated in something different. We really want to be a tool designer that's going to allow someone to be very mobile and not have to have all that setup time. And that's one of the biggest things is you'll notice these investigation teams and stuff, they'll have to spend a long time running all the wires and cables into a house to do the night vision cameras and all that. While they're doing all that, we'll go in, do our thing, and leave, and we'll be like, well, you have a nice time cleaning up. We're going to go have a dinner. Hope you don't stay up too late and have bags under your eyes. We're going to get all of our stuff to be able to knock out what we need very quickly and have a lot of amazing devices to support evidence. And that's the most important thing. Those who are listening, it's great if a tool goes off, but really think about how can I substantiate that evidence. This is what I'm all about. As a master teacher, I'm teaching people how to create enough pieces of evidence so that when you tell people about it or you try to explain it, it's like, look, this has to be haunted because this, and this went off at the same location. I got all this at the same spot. So it's really what they're learning.
That's terrific. Now, what about the cost of these tools? Are you going to try to keep it affordable for the average person? I mean, it sounds like you're going to have a lot of bells and whistles on these things.
Exactly. What we're going to try to do is we're going to try to keep it as a mom and pop kind of organization. Try to keep it from being one of these organizations that kind of really try to rip people off and overprice their devices. We're going to price them effectively. If a device has a lot of components to it, we'll be forced to have the price at a higher rate. But the idea is really trying to see if we can be able to lower the cost of the unit so that you won't lose the bank on your devices. And I know that investigators are always looking for new tools. And what we're also talking about doing is once we break into the new business, we're going to have limited edition tools that's going to go out initially. So basically what we're looking at is like, say we release one of the devices, the first 200 are going to be signed and numbered. So how cool would it be to have one of the first devices ever made of this particular thing and actually be signed by me and the designer and numbered and all that. For example, we all know the Frank's box and all that. That is used as one of the most clear spirit boxes out there. Well, those are numbered, and actually you can see who owns them. Typically celebrities own those devices. They're so hard to get. And you can actually see, how it changes hands, if it does change hands, and who's currently got it for a celebrity. So I'm kind of thinking the same way in relation to these. It's like how neat it would be that we could have some devices that are numbered, and we can keep track of those who have it. It's like Mary Jane over in a different state has this device here, and also offers a little bit of training when they get this device as well. So it's not like you're just getting the device. The device is actually going to have maybe a DVD or something go along and say, look, we're going to talk to you about this device. Let me show you how to use it effectively. I think a lot of these devices really don't have that personal touch.
No, they go out. I've seen them, and they come with this little tiny instruction brochure, and you're left with a lot of questions. So I think it's great that you're able to offer people this type of online training or DVDs or whatever. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing that you're doing.
Thank you.
Would you please keep us posted, because we'll let everybody know also when they're available, and you just give us the word. We'll put it out there on our end, and best of luck to you, J. Adam. This has been a wonderful evening, Halloween, spending it with you and hearing all about Knoxville. If I make it down your way, I'll be sure to look you up, and definitely I will go on one of your tours because it just sounds like so much fun, and you're doing a great job.
Oh, I'll be happy to comp you a ticket because I'd love to have you there. I'd love to be back on the show. Best way to follow me is just make sure you follow our Facebook page and make sure that you actually do put it on it that you want to see our notifications, because anything new comes up. Typically, we'll go through our social media Facebook. It's kind of sad.
Definitely.
Either that or my personal website as well. Awesome,
we'll definitely keep an eye out for whatever you're doing on Facebook. And you just reminded me, everybody out in the audience, make sure you're following us on Supernatural Girls with a Z, and also check out Divine Aligns, ALIGNS. It's our new site on Facebook, and we are going to have some very cool things for you, too. So thanks again, J. Adam. Happy Halloween, everybody. Next week, we'll be back with Lon Duquette, a very famous occultist. And he's got a new book. We're going to hear all about it. So happy Halloween again, everybody. Until then, we'll see you on the Blue Highway. Good night.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next week for another radio adventure with Supernatural Girls.